You are listening to the Fitz and Healthy podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Fitzgerald, also known as Lauren Fitz. I'm a medical doctor, a fitness instructor, an entrepreneur, a health and fitness coach, but most importantly, I am a lover of life. And here on the Fitz and Healthy podcast, I intend to give you a ton of great information and knowledge that will serve as potential power so that you can live a life by design and make it more fits and healthy. And don't forget to listen to the disclaimer at the end. I'm not your doctor, yo. All right, enjoy the episode. Much love. Ciao. Hello and welcome to the Fitz and Healthy podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Fitz, and I'm joined by my beautiful married co-host, Miss Cinthanie McAllister. What's up, girl?
Hey, girl. Hi.
Hi, girl. So this is crazy because this is the first episode that we've filmed after you have become Cinthanie McAllister.
Yeah.
And let's just be honest with the audience. I've just been calling you Cinthanie from Cinthanie.com this whole time because I jack your maiden name up every time.
My maiden name is Patricia, and it's a big Italian name. And combining that with my first name, people just like look at my name and they're like, nope.
Yeah.
So I literally told my husband, I can say that now, and it's so weird.
Right.
Leading up to our wedding, I was like, you have no idea how excited I am to have a last name that people can pronounce.
For real.
Like there's going to be some part of I feel like people are just going to start to call me McAllister, just like, what's up, McAllister? Because they can't say my first name either.
Yes.
So it's then we're just going to start introducing me as McAllister.
Yeah. Or you have people like Robert that call you just Sin. And you're like
I said, everybody looks at my name and they're like, nope.
Right.
I'm just going to call you what I feel like. Okay.
Yep. But for our listeners that, especially if this is the first time that they've listened, we try and record 1 to 2 episodes and get ahead of the game. And we definitely did that for the launch, which was May 1st, which on freaking Sunday is October 1st. So we've been doing this for 4 months now. Is that right? 4?
Mm-hmm.
June, July, August, September. Yes. Okay. 4 months. It's crazy.
Don't do math in public.
Yeah, I know. Right.
My rule of thumb, don't do math in public.
So we should have asked before we started recording the show, but how many downloads are we at? Because people have asked, because people, knew that we wanted to hit 100,000 before your wedding.
We were so close.
We were so
close. But you know what? Like
99.8.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Well, hopefully before Sunday, October 1st, because that would be pretty cool to be able to say that we hit 100,000 downloads in our first 4 months.
Exactly.
So that's the goal. Okay.
But I think that it would happen because people are going to download this episode.
Yes. Well, but this episode is downloaded on October 2nd. So what we want them to do is today on our live broadcast, we need to make sure that to tell them that we just need 200 of you guys to go download this stuff, right? That's it.
If you are listening to this on October 2nd, still go download regardless.
Yes.
Still go download regardless.
Yes. So that is a great segue to what you always remind me, because I always forget, but it's so important, the iTunes review of the week. So for the people that listen, they don't realize how important it is, not only that you go and subscribe to the podcast, but you leave a review, because the way iTunes podcast works is that, and we appreciate everyone, even the Android users that go to Podbean or Stitcher, one of the Stitcher. Or Twitch or something. Anyway, we appreciate all of them, but the iTunes is definitely where a majority of the people listen to us. And for us to be more searchable, the more people that leave reviews, it helps us get our podcast out there. And the feedback, I don't know about you, girl, but the feedback I'm getting from the podcast is freaking awesome. Like when the one that still gives me chills, and I hope that the day never happens that it'll stop giving me chills, but the comment of, this is a life changer. Like that's the whole point we do it, right? So Cinthany's job is to read one of the reviews of the week and give you a shout out. So I haven't heard which one you chose yet.
It's a good one. And I actually, so this is a friend of mine.
Oh, yes.
And so I was scrolling through the reviews this morning. I didn't even know she had left a review. And I was like, hey, it's my girl.
Love it.
Kristen, shout out to Kristen Rogers. She said, my favorite road trip buddies. Hey, ladies, I have to say that your podcast has brightened my long drives to and from work for the last 4 months. So much so that I find myself cracking up laughing alone in the car. Oh, good. That's why you're our tribe.
For real.
But seriously, there is so much to learn about our health, and I wouldn't want to be taught by anyone else. Your authentic personalities and your true passion for helping others show through in every episode. Thank you for picking my brain at least 2 days a week and for continuing to provide the world with your knowledge. Keep doing you, girls, and I'll keep listening.
Dude, I know that the listeners can't see, but can you see those chills? Like literally that gives me chills. Not even kidding. Awesome. I love it. So
my favorite thing to hear is when people are like, it's just like I'm having a conversation with you guys, like it's like girl talk. Like I love that because that's what we would hope it is.
Right. Well, and that's how people listen because there's so many podcasts out there and I listen to different kinds of podcasts so that I can learn what to do and what not to do. And so more times than not, I'm learning what not to do because if the person is boring, you're not going to take in the information, right? You're probably going to just delete and go on and not finish listening. So the fact that, we have this kind of feedback makes me so happy. Actually, I didn't tell you, but when I was home in my hometown of Waco, Texas, shout out Waco, what up? So I worked out with one of my friends named Jenny McCormick. So her maiden name is Jenny Rafferty. That's how I knew her. She was actually 3 years younger. She is 3 years younger than me. She's still the same age, but that's my brother's age. And growing up, 3 years is a big difference, right? So I totally joke with her now. If we would have been the same age, we would have been best friends. Like we're very like-minded. She's a dancer, so she is crazy talented with dancing. But she's a personal trainer, and she's got an amazing Instagram account. It's Jenny Mac Fit on Instagram. She's got she's so creative with her workouts, and totally someone you should follow. So anyway, we went to lunch. And she's a podcast listener. And she was like, she doesn't really follow a whole lot of people. So she just found out that I was doing a podcast. And so she was like, okay, show me where it is. And so she started listening to it. And she sent me a text message. She's like, girl, this is your calling. She goes, do you mind if I share it with my followers? Because she's got a decent following on Instagram. Yeah. I'm like, duh, please. So obviously I want to shout out to her and you guys, if you don't follow Jenny Mac Fit, she's amazing. And if you look at her Instagram, she's a classic example of someone who has been dealt a really, really crappy deck of cards and has made the decision to make her stronger. Yeah. And I won't go into that. And I bet she actually might be someone that we should interview because she's just a good person, humble, just lovely person, but she's been through some struggles and something that I think that a few people can relate with and definitely everyone can gain some motivation from. So motivation and inspiration. So anyway, nonetheless, today we're going to talk about a really not unique topic, but this is a topic that I'm sure that people who have been following me on my journey for longer than, a hot second have been wondering. And thank goodness people know it's none of their business, but they don't ask. But I'm sure that this is something that a lot of people have been thinking about because, okay, long story short, if this is a first time listener and you're like, I don't know anything about you, Lauren. Well, I'm 37. Yes, I'm a medical doctor, but I gave up practicing medicine 2 years ago. And I gave up practicing medicine literally the same month. It was literally probably 30 days before my life totally changed and I got hit with a big ton of, he's going to have to bleep this out, but I'm just going to say it. Okay. And I figured this episode is probably because we're probably going to talk about some sex and stuff. So it's going to be explicit anyway. It's not an episode that you're going to want to hear with your kids anyway. So I'm just going to say it. I got hit with a big pile of December 2015. And my marriage, that was the last month of my marriage. And it was supposed to be the first month of this transition that my now ex-husband and I had agreed on, because in the first 7 or 8 years that we were together, I was the main breadwinner. And there was always the understanding that once he got out of the military and started making private practice orthopedic surgery salary versus just paid as an officer in the Air Force, that he was going to take over the main, being the main provider of the household, right?
Sure.
And so I gave up my medical career. And I mean, I can always go back, but I have zero desire to. I've missed it 0 days since I made this decision. But I made the decision to do health and fitness full time. And so for people that are listening, I have 2 different avenues. I do health and fitness coaching, and I do my Club Fitz Fitness, which is my own dance fitness format, right? And so those 2 things pay my bills, and they're the 2 things that I'm most passionate about. And if you can pay your bills by doing something that you are completely passionate about, it's the best. It's the best of both worlds, right? Mm-hmm. But doing it by yourself is something that most of us don't want to do. And going through life single is something that I think is a major fear that most people don't want to even talk about. So fast forward to current day. We're now in 2017. So my divorce was, okay. When the big bomb happened, sorry, that's going to be the 3rd one, Robert. Robert's like, really? You're giving me more work to do, but that's the only way that I can describe it. Yeah. And if you haven't listened to the episode, Seize the Day, that's the episode that you need to listen to so you can hear my story. But long story short, on Christmas Day, my now ex-husband came home after being in jail all night from his 2nd DUI. And that was the moment that I had to make the decision. Do I want to continue living in this life that I'm married to a highly functional alcoholic and continue the cycle that happened literally every 4 to 6 weeks? Or am I done with this? And I made the decision, I'm done. So I kicked him out. At first I thought, okay, maybe this is salvageable. But then realized that this was not the relationship that was meant for me in the beginning. So I was officially divorced 6 months later from my ex-husband, and I've been single since. And I know a lot of people who, are supporters of me want me to find a man that is my soulmate that I can go through life with. And but what I know that I don't want to do is I don't want to make the same mistake that I've made in the past. Because to be honest with you guys, my ex-husband, he was a rebound. He was a rebound after me getting out of a long-term relationship that I should have 100%, looking back, it's always should, coulda, woulda, but I should have taken time getting out of that relationship to figure out me and who I am and what I want and what I don't want. But instead, I met my ex-husband as a rebound. And because of that, this is not a good reason to get married, but I ended up marrying him because the military was sending him overseas. And it was the decision of, well, do we break up or get married? Not a good reason to get married, people. All of my young millennials that listen, please just listen to me. Don't get married as an ultimatum or whatever. Like, this is a decision that you don't want to be. You don't want to be a 37-year-old looking back thinking, I could be with my soulmate if I would have just made some smart decisions. And so that being said, okay, so this is how the story goes.
Lay it on me.
Yeah. So I have a friend, and I won't, because I didn't ask her if I could say her name, so I'm going to keep her anonymous. But I have a friend that I've made here. She's one of my closest friends here. Have huge respect for her. She's just kind person, very smart, very in tune with everything. And I really value her judgment, her advice, and her thoughts and wisdom when it comes to big time stuff, right? And so I had this dream. And you haven't heard any of these stories yet.
No, I haven't. I'm like on the edge of my seat.
So I had this dream that was so freaking vivid. It's not even funny. So let me tell you this dream. I was in, and it was like either a Jeep Wrangler. It was some sort of like outdoorsy car where it was open to the air. So it was, I'm pretty sure it was a Jeep, but I was in the passenger seat, and in the driver's seat was a man. And I never saw his face. I can't tell you, what he looked like, what color he was, nothing. But I knew that like he was my man, right? In the dream.
Okay.
And we're on this road trip, and we come to basically a fork in the road where you can choose route A, which is basically going to go around this long mountain, and it's going to take 9 hours to get to our destination. Or we can cross this treacherous cavern that is literally like, you can't see the bottom, but it's connected to the other side by this little bridge, right? And in the dream, my
This
man,
is very detailed.
no, I'm telling you, like
Like the fact that you know down to like 9 hours, like that you knew how much.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, like that's why I talked to my friend about this dream, because it was like, yes. So in the dream, he knew that we could make it across, but he gave me the choice. He was cherishing my feelings, and I'm like, my first instinct was looking and being like, oh, hell no, right? But I went with, I trust him, and he knows that it's safe. So I remember in the dream closing my eyes and just saying, just go for it. And so we go across the bridge backwards. I don't really know what that means, but I remember like closing my eyes, not looking, knowing that we're going across this huge cavern on this tiny little bridge. And I'm not looking, I'm just trusting him. And we get on the other side, and the feeling of elation, I woke up with that. And like, I can still feel that feeling. Like it was so real. And it was just like, right?
Yeah.
So, and that was the end of the dream. And so I'm having lunch with my friend, and I tell her the dream, and she looks at me and she goes, Lauren, your dream is telling you that you're ready to trust a man. And I'm like, oh, okay. Right? I'm like, oh goodness, that's pretty deep. I wasn't expecting it to go that deep. So this opened up this conversation, and I'll just tell you this, and I'm sure a few listeners are going to be like, I don't believe in that stuff. I do, because I've actually witnessed it. But she's got a special gift. I'll tell you that. And so that's why I appreciate her input and her thoughts and wisdom and interpretation of things. And so she was like, look, I don't talk about these things unless it's opened up to me, and that's where I will share my insight and my, whatever, my gift, if you will. She asked me, she goes, I'm going to ask you a question. And now I of course know what this means, but she goes, if you had to choose in a relationship, would you choose to be respected first or cherished first? And I'm like, that's easy. That I want to be cherished. I've never felt cherished. I've always been respected. Like that's been my jam, right? Like I'm a smart.
You demand respect. So
yes.
Yeah.
But I've never felt cherished in my relationships. Never. Like that's never been, and I'm not saying that there's never been a time, but overall,
sure,
I've never had that feeling. Like it's always been, I've been respected first, cherished second.
Sure.
So she told me, she's like, okay. She asked me if I'd ever heard of this woman named Dr. Pat Allen. And this is where I realized that I'm risking not losing, but my audience is going to be listening to this podcast. I want you to listen to our podcast and hers too. But she has a podcast. But she started off as, well, she's still doing this as a relationship, marriage, child, sex, and addiction therapist. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Pat Allen is, I believe she turned 84 this month. She's old. But she is the kind of 84. Quick. Oh yeah.
She's hilarious.
Isn't she? Dude.
I was listening to one of her episodes and she holds back nothing and I love it.
Yeah, no, that's hashtag 84-year-old goals right there.
Yeah.
Like for real.
She's so unfiltered and just like to the point.
Yes, I freaking love her. So this is the first time that I was ever introduced to this woman. And she goes, so my friend told me about this book that I need to read. And literally when she told me about this book, I was like, my initial instinct, which I have the title or the book right here. Do you see how like I would have never picked this book up. The title for people that are listening, it's called Getting to I Do. Okay. Yeah. The title alone and then the way the cover looks, I would have never in a million years picked this book up. Never. Yeah. But she told me to read this and I totally respect her. So I went downloaded the book. It's not available on audio. So I have to actually read, but that's another story. But so I started reading the first 2 chapters and I'm like, oh my gosh, where has this book been for basically the last 2 decades of my life?
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
Because I literally, I messaged my friend, I texted her, I'm like, if I would have had this book at the beginning of my 20s, I probably would have avoided all of my relationship woes, like literally. Okay. So Getting to I Do, it's by Dr. Patricia Allen and Sandra Harmon, but Patricia Allen is the main author. And this is where I started learning about her theories and what she teaches and how she practices in her therapy business here in Orange County. And so, which by the way, I haven't told my, okay, the podcast. I've got so much information in my head that I want to share with people. It's like, where do I start?
So usually before an episode, we do like a little bit of a brain dump, and we didn't do that today. And I can tell because Lauren just like has so many things she wants to share.
No, because this is something. Yeah,
this
is a topic that I really feel like we can really help everyone.
Sure.
And just by introducing people to her. And because she's here in Orange County, I am so going to ask if she can be interviewed on our podcast. Because you guys, she's been on major, like she's well known. She's been on major TV shows. She's been on major news. Like she's been interviewed by like important people, not just people that have had a podcast for 4 months. So to get her on here would be pretty cool, but she's in Orange County and I'm going to make it happen. So I'm putting it out there to the universe. But so
and she can, we would have to keep up with her. I was gonna say she can keep up with us, but we would have to keep up with her.
Oh yeah.
If you go listen to her, she's a little spitfire. Like she's funny. She's really funny.
So I just told you about her, yesterday or 2 days ago?
Yeah. No, I think it was yesterday. And I listened to 2 of her episodes. And they're a little bit lengthy because they're live recordings of her working with her client.
Yes.
So it's not like a thought out episode like ours are.
Right.
It's just a live event that's recorded. And so they can go anywhere from 45 minutes to 90 minutes.
Oh, one of her episodes is 2 hours long. And I literally have binge listened. I haven't listened to all of them, but because you learn so much by listening to her.
And even though we're talking about, her book that says how to
get to I Do.
I still, no matter what season of life you are in or where you are at in a relationship or not, she still has so much amazing information that can just I feel like I'm in a pretty good relationship right now because we just got married.
Right.
But I know that it's a process and it's not just we're married now, so everything stops. Like we still have to continue working together and progressing and working on things in our relationship. And so it's not just for the single girls, it's for anybody that gives a shit their relationship essentially.
Well, and that's a good point because my friend that told me about this, she is in a rockin' marriage that is but it's because she continues to learn and literally. So okay, the podcast. So let me tell people how it goes. So literally you can go just search the Dr. Pat Allen Show. Now, when you go listen, if I didn't know what to expect, when I would listen to the first few minutes, obviously she is an older lady and she tells you her age on almost all the episodes. If you aren't ready to know what to expect, I could see people be like, oh, this is whatever. But the format for pretty much every single episode is this. So she has these town hall like meetings on the first Monday of every month in LA at this Marriott hotel and the first Wednesday of every month in Newport Beach. And literally the place in Newport Beach, I could walk there from my place. It's awesome. And the first week of October is this week.
I was gonna say, so what are you doing Wednesday?
No, I think that because I have a couple of my friends in town. And I think that we're going to make a trip to LA on Monday and we're going to go to it. They don't know this yet, but,
but they're going to be along for the ride.
pretty much.
Cool.
So these town hall meetings are recorded. And so the first, and it's like a $5 drop-in, it's essentially to pay for the venue, right?
Yeah.
So the first 30 minutes of these meetings, she is teaching one of the many concepts that is the basis of her therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some of the things that she talks about is the yin versus the yang, and masculine energy versus feminine energy. And she, like, literally the first 30 minutes or so, she's teaching. And then the fun stuff happens. So people that go there that want her help, you have two options. You can pay her $250 an hour for one-on-one therapy, or you can get therapy for $5 for your drop-in rate, but you're putting yourself in front of everyone and an audience that, a potential audience, a huge audience listening to you. And I'm like,
and they share their opinions of what you're talking about too.
Oh yeah. And that's what I love about her, because she will call you out.
Yes.
I mean, freaking love this woman. This woman.
Well, because she genuinely wants to help people. She's not there to spare feelings. She doesn't have time to beat around the bush or have any fluff. So
right. Well, and she tells you that
if you're asking for help, you have to be able to be open to receiving it.
Yes. And she tells you that. She's like, if you're looking for a therapist that's gonna, you want to talk about your feelings, I'm not the one. Yes, I don't deal with feelings.
Yes.
She calls feelings non-negotiable except for murder, suicide, and something else. I should know this because I've listened to so many, but like literally, feelings, she doesn't deal with feelings. So what her work is androgynous semantic realignment. And what that means, so androgynous basically means that every single human being has a feminine and masculine energy side. Okay. Yeah. So she'll always ask, how many of you are androgynous? And if you're new to Pat Allen, you're like, I don't know. But if you know what Pat Allen, you raise your hand, because she will tell you everyone is in here is androgynous. Everyone has the ability to go into their masculine energy versus feminine energy, or vice versa. Right.
Yeah.
So semantics is wording, the way in which you use words to communicate, and realignment. So she basically teaches you how to realign your communication, your words in your relationships. It's brilliant. And this is what all of her work has been based on, all of her therapy. So people that want to get essentially free therapy will get there early, and they'll write their name on this little board. And she takes anywhere from 6 to like 10 people on the hot seat. And it's so funny because she'll always ask, are there any virgins in here? Like, meaning like you don't know who Pat Allen is and what you're about to experience. And and she'll be like, oh, welcome, virgins. I freaking love her. So you'll get anything and everything on the hot seat. And, she tries to keep them, anonymous, but every now and then they'll introduce themselves, like, hi, my name's Alicia. Oh, we're not using names because this thing is going to be listened to by lots of people. Right.
Yeah.
So they'll get on the hot seat and they will essentially talk to her as if no one's there and tell their relationship issues. And she always, like, I would say probably 80 to 90% of the issues are relationship issues. I can't talk today. But there are relationship issues in addition to dealing with elderly issues. So like my mom would be a perfect person to go talk to her, because she's been living, my mom's mom, who's turning 89, who has Alzheimer's, like issues that my mom has to deal with living with elderly. She helps those kind of issues as well, including child issues. And so and this is where
she was blowing my mind. And how she was talking about like the first 3 days of a child's life. Like if you're not held within those first 3 days, like just stuff that like it makes sense, but you would never think about. Or like that it's impactful. Like she says up until like the age of 2 is when a personality is shaped and like your life morals are set. Like it's very, very interesting.
No. And that's why like one of my best friends, she's happily married. She's an amazing parent. She's got 2 little kids. And I told her, I'm like, you need to listen to these episodes, because like it will help you, because she has a boy and a girl. And this is how my mindset, I'm continuing to change and progress. But my mindset used to be that parents should treat their children equal, because I'm one of 2. It's me and my younger brother.
Yeah.
And it used to really piss me off because my parents would totally treat my brother different. But the fact is that to have the best functioning kids, if they're different sexes, you have to treat them differently. Like, and the way in which you speak to them.
People receive love differently.
Yes.
People receive criticism differently. So there really isn't a one size fits all.
Yes.
Whether it's gender or not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in listening to these podcasts, you get to understand this whole concept of feminine energy versus masculine energy. Okay. And this is where my mind just started being blown, because I realized that I had way more fault in the failure of, I've had 3 major relationships in my adult life. Right. And I have been a huge part of the failure of it, because I didn't understand this whole concept of feminine versus masculine energy. So she goes on in pretty much all of the teachings on podcasts and in this book, and everything that you hear her on. You can also find her on YouTube. She talks about men have yin and yang. So yin is feminine energy, yang is masculine. So yin is basically receiving your gentle feminine body form, receiving even like sex, like we're the way we're physically made, we receive, right? And then yang is masculine energy. It's conquer, it's hunt, it's cherish and protect. Like that's yang energy, right?
Provide. Yeah.
So provide. So you have these 2 different energies, if you will. And she talks about one book almost every time, the yin and the yang. I can't believe I'm forgetting this. She literally talks about this book every single episode.
We'll have to figure out what it is and put it in the show notes.
Yes, for sure. So she describes how every female has a yin body, but a yang spirit. And she makes the point. She's like, we are soft, gentle creatures. We are, meant to, be cherished and be receive on the receiving end, if you will. But we have very strong spirits. And this is why we are the sex that is chosen to have babies, because she said, because if it were up to men to procreate and bear babies, then we would never, because they have yin spirits and yang bodies. And which is a very interesting concept, right? And I love it, because this theory of masculine energy versus feminine energy actually is applicable to not just heterosexual relationships. It's applicable to gay relationships, to straight relationships, to lesbian relationships. And it just makes sense. So it's essentially the concept of, if you have 2 magnets and they're both positive, they're going to collide. They're not going to stay together, right? Yeah. You need a positive side and a negative side to attract the magnets, right? And if you enter your relationship, if both of you are masculine energy, this is going to happen. And this headbutting is exactly what has been my main problem. And so this has been, and I can already hear there's going to be some people, because I know that who I was even as little as 5 years ago would have been like, oh, so you just want me to just essentially go against like the feminism movement, right? Because there have been a lot of good things that the feminism movement has brought, but then there's been a lot of bad things. And if you look at the basis of our relationships, the divorce rate is the highest it's ever been in the United States. And I think a lot of it has to do with women learning to take on a masculine role. So the whole concept of, so she goes into asking, she asked the audience, okay, raise your hand if you prefer to be cherished first, respected second. So typically it's the women that raise their hand, right? And there are always some men.
Yeah.
And then she always has this oath that she makes everyone take.
I love
the oath is so funny. The first time I heard it, I'm like, that's so true, because she essentially is like, I promise to respect the love of my life. I promise to blah, blah, blah. And I promise to keep my yang mouth shut, even though that I know that I'm smarter, I'm better, and I can do it more efficiently. And like, it's so true, right?
Yeah.
How many times are we, the female, like asking for directions. I mean, come on. Like there have been so many times that I didn't hold my tongue and been like, you need to exit here. You're missing this.
Mm-hmm.
That's masculine energy.
Girl, even loading the dishwasher, if it's not done right.
Oh yeah. Yep.
It's not done right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You essentially are castrating your man.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially. No, not even kidding. Not even kidding.
Totally.
Feminine energy is you want to be cherished first and respected second.
Mm-hmm.
So then she asked, okay, how many of you in the audience want to be respected first and cherished second? And so typically it's mostly the men, but there are always some women that raise their hand. And then she has them take a different oath. And the different oath is essentially, I promise to protect, provide, cherish female or all humans, children, and animals. And I promise to love them, even though they're illogical, irrational, and like, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my
Basically,
gosh.
she's like validating both parties.
Yes.
In the oaths, like totally validate, like it's okay to feel the way that you do. And we're going to talk about it.
Yes. Yes. And then she always has the third question of, okay, how many of you want to be equally cherished and respected? And it's so funny because if you haven't listened to Dr. Pat Allen, you don't know to not raise your hand during this time. But there are always some Pat Allen virgins in the audience that raise their hand, and she goes, and you guys are called narcissists and you will be single forever. But it's so true. So
I think it's important to point out though, that you do have to have an open mind going into it.
Don't listening to it.
Don't have a preconceived opinion of what she's sharing with you, because I think she even says it. I think she even says, okay, I've been doing this for 40 years. Have any of you been doing it for 40 years? Then no, just listen to me. Like, just make sure, even though, because it does talk about masculine and feminine energy, and that's a sensitive subject in this day and age, you know. So if I can ask you to just, like I said, have an open mind, because she's an expert, and if you can just receive what she is telling you, it applies to everybody.
Absolutely.
Everybody.
Absolutely.
So before you have an opinion, let her teach you.
Yes. And listen to a few of the podcasts too, because you know, depending on who's on the hot seat, the topics can range from anything and everything.
All sorts of stuff.
And you have all kinds of people that are on the hot seat, gay, straight, and lesbian, parents that are struggling with issues with their children, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So this whole time I realized, because masculine energy is controlling, conquering, and you want respect, right? That she talks about the fact that, look, if you're a female and you are masculine energy, that's okay, but you need to find a male that's in his feminine energy. And those, and she is always like, look, I'm not a moralist. I'm not here to judge you. Like, I'm just teaching you science. Right. You do with it what you want.
Yes, exactly.
And she'll go on to tell you that, you know, men that are in their feminine energy are typically artists, musicians, left-handed men. And then men that are anywhere between 45 and 55 and older, because she calls it, I love it, she calls it, they go through andropause, where they, instead of menopause, men go through andropause. And it's where because it has everything to do with their testosterone typically declines at that stage of life, and their estrogen goes up. So now they're typically more in their feminine energy, right? So feminine energy, masculine energy. So when it comes down to it, like I said, you're about to sneeze. Bless you. It's really okay. I saw it coming. I saw it coming. It's all good.
You saw my eye twitch, huh?
Yep. For sure. Okay. So feminine energy is apparently what I have to learn how to be in my relationships, which is like completely contradiction to everything that I've been my whole life. Right.
Yeah.
And of course, like the more you listen to Pat Allen, you not only psychoanalyze yourself, but you psychoanalyze your loved ones, your friends, your family, your everything. And you're like, oh, that's why they're the way they are. Right.
Yeah.
And so like literally I fit the script of why I am the way I am. And that's why like like you said, I want them to be open-minded, because the more you listen to this woman, you realize she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah. There's a reason why she's been doing it for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's not like she's just some person that piqued her interest on this. Like, she was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
She was like in many different relationships, in and out of them. And so it's not only just because she went to school and got a degree. It's based off her experience, and it's something that like she truly is passionate about. So
yeah, it's so funny because almost every episode she talks about the fact that she's been 45 years sober. It's 40 plus years. Like, it's pretty much been the whole time that she's been a therapist, but she was just not only an alcoholic, but a sex addict as well.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because when she tells the story, it's essentially every time she's like, not only was I a rip-roaring drunk, but apparently I was a good lay. I just didn't remember it. And to hear that from an 80-something-year-old woman, like, all right.
Yeah.
Says it the way it is, right?
Yeah, totally.
So, but she, so she, like, literally, I just can't say enough good things about her. And hopefully I'm hoping that she at some point listens to this episode, so she realizes that she's got huge fans from you and me. Masculine energy. So in my previous relationships, my masculine energy has basically headbutted the man that I'm with masculine energy, because I don't want to be with a man that's feminine energy. I want to be cherished. And if
you don't want to be the caretaker.
Exactly. And that being said, I have to, if I really want to be cherished first, respected second, I have to relearn how to go into my feminine energy. And it starts with who says hi first? And I mean, like, literally, because if you speak first, that's masculine. And I'm like, I always say hi first.
But that's why I can't figure out if I am yin or yang.
Right.
I kiss Tanner first.
Girl. I mean, I'm not a professional therapist, but
because she sits there like, and so for you, because you like are like, yep, this is exactly like she nailed it. And I'm just like, I don't know. I have traceable, so I need to keep listening so that I can further identify.
Right. Well, and she talks about there's some situational times where in your relationship, a majority of the time, the man can be more masculine energy and you're feminine energy. Yeah. But when it comes to like running your house, like typically the woman's the boss, and when it comes down to that, that's when the masculine energy comes out. Masculine energy comes out for most of us females that work. Like, I can't, whether I'm practicing anesthesia or I'm coaching other people and being, whatever, I have to be in my masculine energy when I am in those roles. But learning how, that it's okay. I'm not pretending like I'm someone else by going into a different energy in a different situation, and learning that that's what needs to happen so that I can have the kind of relationship that I want.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I've been doing this wrong this whole time.
Well, and to me, it sounds like you, with being cherished, you don't want to be taken care of. You want to be cared for. And there's definitely a difference, because I know for me, like, that's, I don't want to be taken care of. I want to be cared for. Right. And there's definitely a difference in that.
Yes,
and so it's hard to
that's semantics. That's semantics. And that's how she teaches you how to realign your semantics. Like, literally, she'll have someone on the hot seat and they'll be like, so I'm dating this guy, and she goes, are you dating him or is he dating you?
Yes. Yeah. Your verbiage, everything, like how you say things. Yeah. It's so interesting.
When someone gets on the hot seat and they say, I would like to do this. And she goes, so someone comes across you and you say, I would like this or I want this. Who gets what they want? It's like, all right. So that being said, learning how to change your semantics to get what you want. She always says this: women get what they want by knowing what they don't want. And men get what they want by knowing what they want and asking for it. You talked about two masculine energy people butting heads and how that affects relationship. What about two feminine energies together romantically? Would someone naturally fall into the masculine role? That's a great question. asking because my first love was a left-handed, soft-hearted guy, a pushover. I always say that if we got married, wouldn't have decided on anything. Oh my gosh, that's so true. Okay, so these are great points because in the different relationships, you have different roles that people follow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the feminine energy, if you are a masculine energy woman with a feminine energy guy, totally will work. And that's where she's like, I'm not a moralist, you know?
Yeah.
If that's what you want, like I went to lunch with a group of my friends a couple of weeks ago and I was telling them about this, right? And I asked, and there was one chick at the table that she's like, no, I'd rather be respected over cherished. And so, and then, but in her, but in her relationship, she's the masculine energy and her husband's the feminine energy. And that's what makes her happy. But this is true with lesbian couples, with gay couples, and with heterosexual couples. And it's because
even not in an intimate, like in love relationship, but like even in friendships and like it's not just in an intimate relationship, you know, it's how you function with everybody in your life. Because if you think about it, you're technically in a relationship with everybody in your life. You're in a friendship, you're in a family ship, you're in a, you know, so it's not just the person that you are romantically entangled in. It's everybody in your life.
Correct. In fact, I was just talking about this with my assistant yesterday, because I mean, that the relationship I have with my assistant, that's another relationship. And if she were masculine energy, she probably would have been fired in the first month.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like literally every relationship, it's the yin and yang. And if you have two yangs that are both masculine energy butting head, but if you have two feminine energy, you're never going to have anyone making decisions. Never. It's always going to be like, what do you want to do? 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 Right?
The whole, where do you want to eat? What do you want to eat?
Yes. No. And and she asked that so many times in the podcast. Women, how many of you are tired of your man never having an opinion, never making decisions? And it's like, yes. Like, but you know, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Because the feminism movement has basically castrated men, and like the way old school relationships, and I say old school in like human, like male and females have been interacting like this for thousands of years, but it hasn't really been until the feministic movement that this whole concept of no, I'm equal to you. And I'm not saying that they're not equal, but they're different. And if you don't acknowledge that, if you have two positive energy people or masculine energy, you're gonna butt heads.
It's not anatomy, it's energy.
Absolutely.
It's the best way to explain it.
Absolutely. And you know, the fact is, like, if you're a woman and you prefer to be cherished over respected, if you were dating a man that is left-handed, that's really sensitive and whatnot, I can guarantee you that relationship, from what I learned, I mean, I'm not the expert, I'm not the therapist, but from everything that I've learned, that relationship is not going to be healthy. And so this is where you, the individual, whether you're male or female, and of course, most of our listeners are female, you have to make the decision, okay, what energy am I in my relationship? And another book, I brought out this book. I haven't read it yet, but my friend who told me about her, who is happily married, she said this book is even better. And it's by Pat Allen. It's called It's a Man's World and a Woman's Universe. And my friend told me that book is even better. So if you are listening and you're already married in a relationship, my friend told me that that's the best book to start with, because it talks about almost all the same concepts. But I believe that everyone should at least be open to learning these concepts, because I think that they can help everyone's relationships, whether it be their married relationships, their relationships with their kids. Because like for example, semantics. And I don't want to, because this episode could be very long, and I think we're approaching an hour already. So I don't want to just completely verbally vomit, but I do want to acknowledge the fact that, like, the way in which you talk to your kids, like, she talks about this all the time. If she has a woman on the hot seat that's obviously in her masculine energy and is having problems in her relationships because she's masculine energy, she'll ask, so when your dad came home from work, did he ask you how you felt about your day or what you thought about your day? You know, a lot of people, what you thought. okay, so you're essentially your dad's son. It's like, because
But again, it's energy, not anatomy. You have to look at it as energy, not anatomy.
Exactly. But like when you are talking to your daughters, you are talking about feelings, but when you're talking about your son, you're talking to your sons, you're talking about thought. And that's the difference. The feminine energy is feelings, masculine energy is thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And so she'll have someone come up on the hot seat, tell about their, current relationship problem, and she'll literally walk them through how to speak to the significant other, because like I said earlier, the verb want is masculine. So, and I mean, this spoke to me. There's so many things that have spoken to me, obviously, but like how many times you communicate to your man and you're like, I want this, I want that. But that you have to realign your semantics and say, I feel uncomfortable with you asking me to do this. And what would you think about doing it this way? So you see the semantics of that? Like, I feel, what do you think? She goes, never ask a man what he thinks unless he's bleeding or dying.
What he feels? You mean what he feels?
What he feels.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, did I say think?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Never ask a man what he feels unless he's bleeding or dying or something like that. But literally, and like when I was at home in Waco, I was interacting with my nephews, and like I started to put that to practice. Like I didn't ask, how you feel. I'm asking, so what'd you think about today? And it's like, it's little things like that I really want our listeners to, because there's no perfect, and that's another thing she says. I love the fact there is no human being that is worthy of being married. And
she did say that. And I thought that was so interesting to think.
Yes.
To talk about, Yeah.
Yes, because it's so true. She goes, you have to commit to the relationship, because none of us are worthy of marriage. And it's true. Like all of us have flaws and whatnot, but she always asks, if a person that you're with, if you're having issues, if they're 51% salvageable, then you need to work on learning how to change your communication, realign your semantics, and make it work. Because if they're 51% salvageable, stick with that, because you might leave and there's a lot of crap out there.
Yeah. And she does talk about like the difference between like marriage versus mate and stuff like that. It's so interesting. It's so interesting.
Right. Because and she talks about one thing which I think is an easy concept. A relationship needs 3 elements to be successful. It needs chemistry, compatibility, and communication. So chemistry, she always tells you, look, I can't fake that. Like that's either there or not. That's biology. In the first 3 minutes of being around someone, sometimes 3 seconds, if there is chemistry there. And she's so funny because she just says it the way it is. She'll be like, ladies, how many of you have been sitting next to someone in church and you start lubricating? And she'll say that. And she goes, look, it's biology. Men get erections, women lubricate.
Yeah.
It's biology. And so she says, chemistry, I can't help you on that. But compatibility and communication, those are elements that I can help you on. So compatibility is, do our lifestyles, are they compatible? Do we live close to each other? Or if we don't, are you willing to pick up and move to where he's at? Like compatibility. And then communication is where most of us falter. And we learn terrible communication skills from our parents, from media, from the world. And it ends up having people like me that I'm 37 and, I'm single, and I'm like, okay, my next relationship, I want it to be the one that I grow old with. And and if I just haphazardly go into a relationship, I'm going to repeat the same mistakes. And I know that I want to be cherished. And that means that I'm going to have to learn how to be in my feminine energy in my relationship. And that means that I'm going to have to give up control and be okay with it, because that's how I respect the man I'm with.
Yeah.
The more and more I learn about it, the more relief it gives me, because I know that's what I want. And I can still be the hardworking, intelligent person, but if I want what I want in my relationship, I'm going to have to give up some independence, because there are going to be times that, out of respect, we're going to do something that I really don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I will communicate my feelings with the man, and hopefully he cherishes me enough and I respect him enough to make the right decision for us on big and small things,
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, so that's, I go back and forth, and I know I've told you this before. My closest friends I've told, like, I think I'm ready to start dating, then I don't think I am. But I definitely, I think that people that get out of relationships or marriages and just haphazardly jump into the next, you're definitely setting yourself up for failure. And I did the same thing. In fact, my relationship before John, his name was Michael, and Michael, I don't actually know where he is. I don't think he's on Facebook. Like, I hope that he's, happily married with kids
Doing
and
well wherever.
Definitely don't wish him any. I don't wish any of my past relationships.
Yeah, no.
For sure.
Just don't. There's no room for negativity or toxicity.
Absolutely. But the last thing he told me was that he was at fault 100% for the failure of that relationship. And up until recently, I actually believed that, because I felt like I did everything to save that relationship. Mm-hmm. And it was one-sided. But now I look back, and I was in my masculine energy in that relationship, and essentially castrated him.
Yeah.
And so he was definitely not 100% at fault. Am I 100% at fault? No, but I definitely, looking back,
can take responsibility.
Yeah. I see the fault that I had. And I know my choice is I need a masculine energy man. And, and I am ready to be in my feminine energy in my relationship. But then finding someone that, because part of that is, and we'll wrap this up, because obviously I could talk about this for a long time, but one thing that she talks about is not having intercourse until you are in a committed, monogamous, marriage-bound relationship. And casual sex is real and rampant, and I'm not going to do that. And so, like, I told a friend that, they were like, so how's that going for you in California? Like,
right?
Well, I haven't really put myself on the market yet, so I don't know. But I'm sure
we'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, though, is if you can identify the things that you need to do differently or feel like will contribute differently, then that's a good start,
Yeah.
It's funny because I'm sitting here thinking, like, the last time I was single, I'm like, because Tanner and I have been together for 6 years.
Yeah.
And I had, like, sworn off, granted, I was like 18.
Yeah.
But I had come out of a 2-year relationship before Tanner, and I had, like, sworn off boys for like a year and a half. I was not looking for, I wasn't looking for anything.
Yeah.
And Tanner literally just fell in my lap. So it's just interesting. It's going to be interesting to see you go through that process.
I believe that the universe has the perfect match for me. And
totally.
And this time I'm going to do it right. And I'm excited. It's scary because, the reality is, like, anytime that someone will get on the hot seat and, it's a female and they're like, I can't meet anyone. She'll be like, well, are you marketing your booty? She'll be like, you're not ugly. So where are you marketing your booty?
Yeah.
And like, and I need to market my booty apparently. Because
you do got a good one.
I market my booty in some way, but not that way.
I know we're trying to end this, but I just have to share a funny story from my wedding.
Oh, Lord.
Lauren was doing her thing. She's a dancer. We were getting down, and we have a single friend who's around Lauren's age, and he just was like infatuated with her, like just could not watch her. Like he just was like, it was hilarious to watch. It was just because she was dancing and he would just be like he couldn't like comprehend her.
Oh my God.
so funny to watch. It's awesome.
But it's crazy because like I wasn't aware of that. Well, I don't dance to do that, but like I wasn't aware of that.
That's why it was so funny, because you were in your element and just like totally unaware of the fact that he just was like drooling over you. It was hilarious.
But but this is a great example to make, because men nowadays, like, because if he were right for me, he would have been in his masculine energy and approached me and been like, okay, so
hey, girl,
no, yeah. No, if he would have said that, I've been like, no, you're gay. I'm sorry. but he would have, because it's the masculine energy that approaches, and the feminine energy is in the receiving, and I love it because Pat Allen talks about, we women, we have to use our eyes. We don't speak first, but we use our eyes. And so you're going to so make fun of me for this, but I've been practicing, because it's actually.
Oh, you've been practicing your bedroom eyes? Give me the look. Let me see.
No, seriously, because she talks about the 5-second look, because she said women speak with their eyes, and 3 seconds makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable. And she goes, but those extra 2 seconds, it's going to make you feel like a slut at first. And it's so true. It's because it's like, it's so,
because you're communicating, and it's you're saying, I totally know what you're talking about. Because anytime I've gone out to like a bar or anything like that with friends, like gone out at night, like I watch this happen. Like I watch girls communicate with their eyes to guys, and like kind of like give them the signal, and then guys go over and start talking. So it's totally like,
because the look, that the 5-second look is essentially the green light saying, I see you.
You have my attention.
Do you see me? Yeah. And it gives the guy the like, okay, I'm going to go approach this girl.
Mm-hmm.
But, but nowadays in the, where there's so many masculine energy females, some women will be, taken back, like, oh, you're trying to hit on me. And so, but let me just tell you the story, and we'll wrap this up. So when I practice, because literally my life, like outside of travel, like I do travel a lot.
I want to see your bedroom look.
Oh, you don't want to even. No, because when I perform, dancing, like people know me, like I love.
I know you. Yes.
I love
like dancer space.
I'm full of expression. So if I have a song that's like needs stank face, I'll put stank face. But then, like if you put on anything Beyonce, I give those bedroom eyes, like, Monica Lewinsky'd all over my gown, like partition baby, like, I mean, those eyes come out.
Right? Totally.
So, but outside of traveling a lot, like I literally, my day-to-day life is actually pretty boring. Like I work from home, right? Mm-hmm. So I go to the gym that I teach at, and I go to Whole Foods, and every now and then I go other places, right? I walk my dogs every day. But so when I'm going out on these places, I've started practicing making eye contact with men that are, even if I'm not attracted, just to practice, like, because it actually is uncomfortable, right? Mm-hmm. It's so I'm on this dog walk. It's like, it was about a month. It was right before Labor Day. I know this. So right before Labor Day, I'm walking the dogs where it's right before sunset. So it's still light enough. And so I'm literally practicing making eye contact with men driving by. Okay. In the cars on the opposite way. And
every guy that drove past you was like, oh, hey. You made all of them feel so good that day.
No, but the reality is, like where I live, there's a lot of older people. Mm-hmm. And so it's like 1 in every 5 that it's like a younger person that might be, it's not often. So this particular one, like he was driving this nice Mercedes, was a good looking light chocolate man. And I'm like, because you don't see that very often where I live. Right.
Yeah.
And so he like drives by, and he comes to a stop sign, and like, literally I turn my head. I mean, girl, he turned around, not even kidding, turned around, pulled over to the side of the road, and I'm in a public area, so it's not like I'm nervous for my life or whatever.
And you have 2 dogs with you.
Exactly. But he got out of the car and was like, I'm sorry, I usually don't do this. I hope I don't make you feel uncomfortable, but you caught my eye and you're just,
Yeah.
you
You're like, yeah, I know I did that.
but yeah, so and he invited me out to play volleyball on the beach the very next day. And when I was playing volleyball, someone asked about his wife, and I'm like, ugh, I know, I can't make that up.
That's California for you.
Jeez.
Dang.
But
no, the look works.
The look works, girl. The look works.
Is alive and well. That's so awesome.
So yeah. So anyway, obviously, you know, this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart because that's the stage of life I'm at. And you know, I know that there are a lot of single and or divorced females out there that follow me. But there's also a lot of people in marriages and relationships that are not the healthiest. And, you know, I definitely think that you can learn a lot from Pat Allen, and that will help you either give you the tools to know that how to salvage it, or do you need to let it go?
Yeah.
You know,
totally.
And you know, the whole 51% salvageable, that's a real thing, because there's a lot of crap people out there for sure. So yeah. So I'm hoping that this opens the door to the universe to have Pat Allen on the show and interview her, because especially since I'm right here in Newport Beach, that would be awesome. But I just, you know, if the message that you give at the end of the show is always pertinent, but it's even more pertinent because of this topic. So why don't you tell our listeners?
It's funny because I feel like at the end of it, not to toot my own horn, but I feel like at the end of every episode, whatever we talk about, this always it always relates. That's why it's my motto and why it's my message.
Yep. And there goes the chills again. Every time.
All right. But the message is that you are a good person and you deserve good things to happen to you, which means good relationships.
Amen. So we appreciate everyone listening to the podcast, leaving reviews, and sharing the podcast so that we can give other people the tools to help them have a more Fitz and healthy life. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next episode. Ciao.
Bye.
Make sure that you find us on social media. You can find Cinthanie on Instagram and Facebook at Cinthanie. So that's CINTHANIE, and on Snapchat at Cinthanie P. And find me on social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all at Club Fitz Fitness. Remember, that's FITZ Fitness. And on Snapchat, just at Club Fitz. I appreciate your time listening so much. If you enjoyed this episode of the Fitz and Healthy podcast, can you please go do me a favor and go subscribe at whatever platform that it is that you listen to podcasts. Leave a review. We read every single review, and we appreciate the time that you take to leave your thoughts and opinions. Now, also remember, while I am a medical doctor, the information I provide here is not intended to provide medical advice or a professional diagnosis, opinion, treatment, or services to you or to any other individual. I am providing general information for educational and informational purposes only, and it is not a substitute for medical or professional care. You should not use this information in place of a visit, call, consultation, or the advice of your physician or other healthcare provider. The information I share is not intended to treat, cure, or diagnose any disease or medical condition. If you believe you have a medical emergency, just call 911 immediately or your physician. Now, enough of that medical legal jargon. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I appreciate your time. Now, go live a Fitz and healthy life.